Okay, so welcome to the second System Design Think Tank. This is Smart Products and Smart Services. I'm Lloyd from Trust in Soda, and this is a Soda Social team sponsoring, the System Design Think Tank. Now I should hand over to you, really, so if you wanted to intro the Think Tank series.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Lloyd. Hello, everyone. Really nice to be here this evening. So Think Tank series is part of system design practice. So it's an emerging design practice that we've been, and many of us here has been working on. And as part of system design capability and as well as client work, what we decided to do is do a number of work that we can actually engage public and have open conversations all together. So actually bring awareness to what we do, how we design, and as well as where actually system design, where can we use it. So these Think Tank series, each of them, they have a theme, and today is smart products and smart system. And basically we are going to have a conversation. There is no like ready presentation. So please have like, bear with us while we discussing. And also share questions, and you can find out more about think tanks after. We will share some links, and also all these conversations nicely turns into a journal after each of them. So because this is a voluntarily kind of participations from everyone, so we're quite late with the previous journal, but it's going to be released soon. So thanks, and I should also introduce myself, I think, in the meantime. So I am Noor, and I work at Brilliant Basics. We are part of Infosys Design and Innovation Studio. At Brilliant Basics, I'm the head of experience design and also system design. So this is our new capability that we go to client with, and also we build that practice internally from skills to and running projects. So my involvement with system design started quite long years ago. As a background, my background is HCI and computer science, and I involved and working in quite different R&Ds and innovation centers where I actually got a chance to practice design slightly different, and which is going to be a really interesting conversation today, and lots of learning from different experiences. Thanks, Lloyd.
Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, thanks for that, Noah. I think now, Fez, if I could ask you to introduce yourself, please, and your relevance to system design and your role.
Of course. So I'm Fez Hussain, and I currently work for Deloitte in one of their venture studios as their head of business shaping and design. And what that really means is I help validate new concepts that come into our venture studio, as well as help pivot propositions that are already there. I sort of came about, this is a new job for me. I was an entrepreneur for about 10 or 15 years, working in the design space, working with startups, in particular on more the service design side of things, moving into more system, business, and organizational design. And so I look at it more from this sort of a startup point of view of how do startups take their proposition to market. How do they partner? What's the ecosystem around startups that allow them to thrive?
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for that, Fez. Antonio, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Okay, hello everyone. So my name is Antonio. I'm professor at the School of Design at Politecnico di Milano, and I'm also a board member of a product service system design course, which is basically the service design course that include also the system design practice since the beginning. From the other side, I'm working at Tangity, which is a service design global studio, design studio, and I'm leading the service design practice across the Italian studios.
Okay, thank you very much. And Olga, if I could ask you to introduce yourself to the audience and your relevance to system design, please.
Sure. Hi, I'm Olga. I also work for Tangity, which is a design studio of entity data. It's a very large Japanese, founded in Japan technology company. And I work for the UK design agency. And my role there is strategic design and research. And my particular interest is in systems design and data-driven design. And my background is in UX and service design.
Okay, thank you very much. And over to you, please. Abhijit, if you could introduce yourself and your relevance to system design. I think you're on mute, Abhijit.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Abhijit Gupta. I'm a data specialist by profession and also an entrepreneur. And in last few years, I have been working in large corporations and in startups, and in both places, I've been helping companies to get their data act together. While doing so, what I realized is that the business leaves footprint, and this footprint today is captured in form of data. And if I could link these data points together, we always see a holistic picture for the business. This is where the connection with system design comes in, where system design looks at a problem in a very holistic manner. And me as a data specialist really feel very passionate that if I'm able to make data points available for system design, and if it can act as a fuel for that particular system, the things that we'll bring into existence will be some amazing products. And therefore, I'm here talking to you guys. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now that we've all introduced ourselves to the audience, no, could you, tell us a bit about this theme, please?
The theme is smart products and smart systems. So we had previous system design conversation, but I just want to really recap for people who joined for the first time or hearing about system design for the first time. So what we're talking about here is a practice, a design discipline that brings together design thinking and systems thinking, and look at sometimes complex and very, very complex business problems, societal problems, any kind of problems holistically to drive solutions. And this is not necessarily just strategically to drive solutions, but actually, like Abhijit said, what are the data points? So every time we talk about, a system being smart, system being connected, system being holistically mapped out, this is actually the end product is smart products. So I'll give you just one example. Turn on your Google Health app if you are an Android user, and what you see there is almost no interaction, right? So I'm not interacting. I'm just turning turning the app on, looking at that screen, and that gives me information probably from 5 different devices, from my scale to sleeping pods to all different things and Fitbits, etc. So there is a giant system behind this screen. I'm not also almost entirely not even navigating in the health app, but what I see there, this product, this kind of product gives me so much insight and information holistically and in a moment that I need. And it's supported by a quite large, mechanism at the background. So we received a number of questions when we talked about previously, why system design? Is this about really kind of reconstruction, the organizations, etc.? The answer is today. So no, guys, system design can actually deliver very, very smart product. But it should come from, the idea is the smart system is then enabler for these products that actually people interact with.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I think then with that, we should go straight into a poll now for the audience. Hopefully that has come up on everybody's screen. There we go. So it's basically the poll is, what are the biggest risks for not designing smart products or smart systems? So I'll give the audience a minute to answer that. Try to vote, but panelists aren't allowed.
Exactly happened to me. I'm trying to.
Is this an example of dark UX? Like we have this list of things that we're supposed to vote on, but we can't do it.
There's actually a line at the bottom, but
At the
because it's red.
bottom, you know, it should start. You know, it's a green banner at the top, which makes me want
Yes,
to vote. You know.
Yeah.
A couple more seconds on the poll. Okay, then the results are in. Very, very good. Unsustainable products, which is obviously massive. Anyone have anything to say on that?
I was going to vote for unsustainable products, so I'm glad a lot of people think like that.
I was actually thinking, did I break it? Because I was clicking on it as well.
I'm just having a few little technical issues here with my laptop. If you just bear with me for 1 second, please. Okay, thank you for that, for waiting. Don't worry, I'm not going to log off. If we could... Oh my God. If we go into the first question of what is a smart product? And I'll open that up to the panel.
Okay, may I go first?
Would you like to answer it first?
Okay.
Perfect, let's go.
A smart product, I mean, when we think about a product, most of the time, regardless whether the product is digital or physical product, we are very much concentrated in the interaction with our products. And most of the time, we think about to, give our input to this product and then give some commands that should be executed by this product, and that's it. A smart product is a product with which is not only capable to execute your orders, let's say, but is capable to develop a kind of a relationship with you due to the fact that it's capable to understand, to empathize with your needs, to understand your environment, to understand people and context, and to provide, to react accordingly. This is a smart product, capable to build up a relationship with the users, from my standpoint.
Okay, thank you very much. And Olga, would you like to follow on from that, please?
Yes, sure. When I think about smart products, I think there's always a range of how smart the product is. And what Antonio described, I think it's right at the top range of smart products. But just like the four main types of advanced analytics, the product which informs users about what is happening with the product is already smart. For example, if a factory producing something informs people who oversee the factory that there is a fault, it's a smart product. If that same factory diagnoses and explains why there is a fault, that's another layer of smartness. It can also predict a fault, and we can design for the actions based on predictions, or it can prescribe what to do when it receives certain signals. And then we can use automation. And I think the most advanced form of smart products and services are self-learning and products and services which can emulate empathy, which can learn about users over time and adapt their offering over time. So they are not always respond in the same way, even to the same actions of the user.
Okay, thank you very much. Very interesting. And Fez, would you like to follow on for that, please?
Of course. Yeah, I really like what you said, Olga, and especially what you said, Antonio, about the relationship with the end user. I think as designers, we've always kind of been almost like people who make puzzles. We kind of cut the puzzle pieces ahead of time. We know exactly where everything should be and where the end user is almost following a journey we've set out for them. But when it comes to self-learning, we have to think a little bit larger. We need to think on the macro level of how these things interact and how people can kind of make up their own journeys using the products that we create. And a lot of products that we have now, I like this distinction between the sort of operator level products, kind of like the Amazon Alexas of the world, where you give it orders and it gives you exactly what you asked for, versus these products that are almost the tier 2 or the tier 3 level of smartness, which are able to kind of intuit what we want from the products. And I think somewhere between that, I think the way that we've been making smart products in the moment is more faking it. It's like, let's pretend that there's a relationship with the customer. When it's a chatbot, we all know it's a script that we've created ahead of time. There's maybe a little bit of interpolation, but we're trying to kind of fill out the rest of those products now from that promise we've made by faking it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Avijit, with your experience, what would you say a smart product is, from following on from Fez? You on mute?
It happened again, sorry. Okay, so I was saying that what Antonio, Olga, and Fez said are kind of the constituents of smart product. I'd like to add another angle to it, which is stakeholders. A smart product might have multiple stakeholders, not just the user who's using it, but the manufacturers who are manufacturing it, or the ecological footprint it might have on the planet. All these things together will make a smart product. And if I give a data angle to it, what it means is, while it is continuously, what it means is it is continuously gathering data of what user is doing with the product, how it is using in different point of time, but also during the creation of the product, during the manufacturing manufacturing of the product. Who are the stakeholders and how they're coming together to make that product, and what is the footprint for each time a product is made. And all these data points, when come together, the possibilities are limitless. Initially, we'll only see what we want to see, but then you keep on introducing more and more intelligent algorithm on top of it, because we have the data. The product starts becoming smarter and smarter over a period of time. And I think that is what is the most important constituent or feature of a smart product, is that it makes itself open to possibilities, just like how we are human beings. If we open up, then things happen to us. So serendipity is also a very important aspect of smart products.
Thank you very much for that answer. Really enjoyed that. And finally, Nerv, what would you say a smart product is?
I agree with all the points. I think from user side, products getting smarter. I really love how Olga framed this. It's flowing data, right? It sounds very simple, but not many services today flows that level of data, including our kind of core main banks. So data is one side that actually enriches that product to make it smart, but making sense of data actually makes a product smart, right? So the patterns, understanding that patterns beyond human capacity. So I don't know how I slept last year, but my device probably would know about it. So just as an example. So I think that going beyond human capacity, it just really changes the course of how the products are also developing, designing, and solutionizing something that that delivers some value to customers. So from design lens, for me, yes, you can call it system design, but it's a design beyond that what you see and what you touch as if you see that is smart product is an interface of a smart system, That's how I see it, because there's like a whole lot of, it's on the top of the kind of iceberg, if I kind of envision that diagram, that everyone probably got bored of. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So the panel have now, all explained amazingly what a smart product is. I think now, I think now what we should go into is what a smart system is, for the audience. So Faz, maybe over to you first, please.
I think Olga Nur just fully described what a smart system is. We're talking about sort of like this free arbitrage of data that's well understood, well analyzed at every touch point or every sort of product point along the system. I think in some ways this is quite theoretical and quite abstract, but on a real level, it impacts everybody. I know that Noor was very careful not to talk about smart cities here, because that would open up a whole can of worms. But when we look at systems, we're looking at every possible impact something can make. And that's so important in the world that we live in today. And we see that with the public health crisis that we've been going through this year, and the sort of negative externalities of social media platforms and how their impact has sort of gone into places that they never thought they would.
Further to add on to Faz? Mute.
Absolutely. So smart system, from my perspective, means having the capability to enable smart services to serve smart product. I mean, it's quite easy, but this is just one side of the definition. We might, for instance, to give a meaning of a smartness, which is not something which is capable to understand and to give an answer to understanding of, and it's a matter of a smart project, a smart product, or a smart system is a system able to vibe, to have a positive impact on people's lives, for instance. This is one of the another lens that we can utilize to observe a smart system. Perhaps a smart system is a platform, okay, which is an enabler for smart services and smart products, but it is also a system which is capable to have a positive impact on people's lives.
Okay, thank you very much. Olga, what would you add on to that, please?
Yeah, I agree with what was already said. I think that the smart system, looking at solutions as system solutions, allows us to look at possible consequences and evaluate intended and unintended consequences. And I think it's particularly interesting to see how the data flow can be used for that. Well, one of the examples from the past few months is the extensive modeling of different situations that our scientists did, the modeling of various kind of aspects of impact of coronavirus on different parts of the society, on economics, and on everything else. So this is a good example of system thinking and application of data.
Okay, thank you very much. I think next then, really, why do we need, why would you say that we need system design for smart products? I'd like to open that up too. Fez, would you like to start with that, please?
I think when I want to go back 15 years to when service design was created. With service design, one of the mantras that we were talking about was, we've been working in silos far too long. We've never brought the right stakeholders in the room. And then we're surprised that our services don't work because we never intended them to talk to each other in the way that the users use them. So we had this sort of complacency before service design came along, and that same complacency is applied now with systems. We think that just because we've created our product and we've used a bunch of public APIs and we've engaged all of our users, we've been extremely user-centric, that everything's supposed to work. But if we just privilege the sovereignty of our end users, that's often at the expense of the other people who are impacted by the service or the system as a whole. I think back to maybe 10 years ago in Chicago, there was an initiative to move all of parking payments onto smartphones. And if you think about that for a second, not everybody had smartphones. If you think about some of the poorest neighborhoods in Chicago, and in the United States, let me give some context, it costs about $100 a month to have a smartphone compared to the UK, which would be, you know, a lot of it was subsidized for a long time. You immediately lock people out without even realizing it because you're only designing with the end users you thought were most important. So the impact has already started. We're already acting in this very complacent way about systems because we don't admit that systems are there. Just like in service design, a lot of people didn't realize that they were providing a service. We have to recognize that we are actually operating in a system and everything is connected. And if we don't do that, there will be consequences.
Yeah, definitely. Very interesting point about the parking meters as well. Antonio, do you have anything further to add on to that?
Completely with what just Faith said, and why we need a smart system. We need smart system, otherwise our products are not so smart, because if we are not in the position to put together some data, a system which is capable of the environment and to respond, and to provide the data to feed our services and the related products, it is not possible to create any smart product. As we have already mentioned before, the data in a way are kind of flu for the smart products, and the system itself is a way to create this amount of data, the sensitiveness capability of the system to sense the environment and to feed the result to services and smart products.
Okay, thank you very much. Olga, do you have anything further to add why we need system design for smart products?
Yes, I think system design is particularly important for the larger problems that cannot be solved by a single organization or a single type of organization. And I'll give an example of my current project, which is an AI-powered homeschool helper. And as you can imagine, homeschooling cannot be done by just one company. It cannot be done by a software provider. It needs to be done, it's an effort of parents, of teachers, of everyone involved in educating a child. And although we are designing smart algorithms for the system, but we need to think about all the scenarios. What will be the role of a parent? How active would they want to be? What would be the role of the teacher? Would they want to control the content, or would they want to just supervise it? Or would they want to evaluate it? So it's providing the right kind of the right amount of data and insight and interaction for all actors involved in solving a problem. I think is a real opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the homeschooling is very relevant given this given what's happening in this moment in time as well, and it's quite a lot of data to take into consideration as well about how involved people would want to be. I think because we've just touched on data, it'd be perfect for Avijit now to jump in and let us know what he thinks about this as well.
Sure, thank you. I think before I talk about data, for the audience, I just wanted to point out one particular nuance with system design. So me coming from a background of system engineering, software engineering, system design terminology has been very relevant. So we used to get requirement from the business and you would create a software system and then deliver it to maybe the service design guys to provide the service. So from my perspective, originally, I used to think that building of the software product is called systems design. But if we actually go and read systems theory, we will find out that system design looks at a product, not necessarily a software product, this product as an entity. And when we start looking at something as an entity, then suddenly the whole way of looking at a problem or a product changes, because an entity, we are as human beings also entities. So we have touch points with stakeholders, we have a lot of touch points with our environment, etc., etc. And that is the perspective we start bringing into our design. Now, why system design has become very relevant is because of the advent of the technology in modern days. More and more products are becoming intelligent, and therefore to design an intelligent product, it has almost become more important to think of it as an entity and then design it. And this is where data comes into picture as well, because essentially it's a product that we're designing. We can collect multiple data points and keep it in a reservoir, a data lake, and then use it continuously to run algorithms and then make the product more intelligent. And that's why I think system design is very relevant to smart product building.
Okay, thank you very much. And last but not least, Nerv, do you have anything further to add on to this?
I think this, you know, everyone nicely covered different angles. I kind of felt like when we say systems, right, what is it? What is it that as a system we're talking about? So there might be just a question as a listener, I thought would be good to clarify this, right? So everything could be a system. Human body is a system. Our universe is a system, right? What we define as a system depends on what complex challenge we actually looking at, right? So homeschooling, it's a nice system work, but imagine the scale of this system is massive, right? And I have redesign of pharmaceutical process. That's a system that starts from clinical trials, pharmaceutical, hospital, and a patient. So the borders of system is really important. What we define depends on what challenge we are solving, and also what is it in the scope that we are solving, right? At the end of the day, it is a business that needs to work and needs to be commercially viable. So I just wanted to clarify this first. And the second, when we talk about systems, right? So immediately, since my childhood, I get this like a clock, you know, like inside the clock, kind of like a turning. So something is working and affects the other things. That metaphor for me, it works really well. However, when we talk about wide range of complex systems today, we might be looking at internal systems already siloed within a domain, right? Or we might also be looking at partners, collaborators, regulators, quite a lot of other things, because these are the things eventually affects the end user. So United Nations already released 16 sustainability target goals. So why system design is important today? Because number one, the expectation from consumer side, from not just consumer, from user side, from employee side, what am I using as a digital product, as a system, is so important. It needs to be helping me, right? So that's like a big expectation. And there is a generation Z that what we call like 2000 plus year borners. Unfortunately, I'm not in that group. So they expect for companies to prove not only what they deliver, but also how you deliver, right? How you recycle, how you take care of environment while you are making factories of etc. X and Y's. And the third point is what Abhijit really hits on it. It is technology is more available. And when we look at today, I think I think that creates nostalgia for us. 15, 20 years ago, you would get like a WordPress template. Oh my God, they look so nice, and you can just easily adapt it. And I really see like in very short time, I don't see like 10, 15 years, but even shorter time, we're gonna buy some sort of intelligence so that we can adapt those frameworks into our websites or products. And I think even exists today, like smart agents, you know, you buy it, integrate it. What level of smartness we're talking about probably determine the price of these kind of new templates or products. So that's where I see why design need to look at design a bit more holistically. That's why we need more systems thinking into our design process. So I think that's in that point, I agree with everyone's point. Just wanted to add these ones.
Okay, thank you very much.
Add on to that.
Yeah, go for it. Go on.
I love the metaphor of the human body. If you think about what medicine was like 200 years ago, they would treat one part of they would only treat the part that was like visibly destroyed. They would basically say, oh, your hand is like bleeding. Let's like cut off this part so that, you know, they'd feed you medicine that would destroy another part of your body to protect one part of the body, because they didn't look at the boundaries of the human body. They looked at each system, like subsystem, as its own problem. And I think until we understand where the boundary is, like none of that makes sense. And I think from a business perspective, where does it, I wanted to add to what Noor is saying, because I think all of it's brilliant. And I think from the business perspective, why should businesses buy this today? Is there are, you know, we have still sort of adopted the old school 1980s org chart. That's still what things default to. Even in very flat structures, there is hierarchy returns when problems arise. And because of hierarchy and because of the way we've siloed organizations, because when organizations get above a certain size, we have to start creating organs, just like in the human body terms. And if those organs don't talk to each other, or at like a level that's actually relevant, then those individual organs can't function properly. So looking inside an organization as well, you need to look at the system as in totality in order to make sure data flow happens. I work in a huge knowledge organization with thousands of silos across the world. And on a daily basis, I'm reminded that, oh, there is a team out there that knows something about this. I have to find that team.
Think now.
Can I add something to that? Sorry.
We knew this would happen, of course. Go for it.
Just as an example, because I mean, audience might be interested in going out and reading such example of systems thinking. And one of the very, very good example I can quote coming from a financial industry background is Ray Dalio's Bridgewater hedge fund. After his initial failures at running a hedge fund, he realized that he can actually systemize the entire way of working within the hedge fund. And in his book, Principles, that he wrote, he's actually written step-by-step process of how he used system thinking into creating a very, very, very successful organization. So if we can do it at that level, as Faiz was mentioning, identifying each aspect as organs, then, you know, smart product is a cheesecake, only if we are willing to do it.
Okay, thank you. And did anybody else want to add on before I move on?
I think Abhijit you're absolutely right. So smart product is kind of like more feels like a bit of selling point of, you know, the attraction point of what smart systems are. But smart system can deliver multiple smart products and multiple smart services, but also takes care of its people, its partners, everyone involved, and also ethic that we haven't touched, but I think we're going to get there somehow today. Also ethical and fair use of data. So I think that's yeah, data guy should speak, but yeah.
I wanted to add one more thing, which was about the employee experience, which is something that we often in org design we look at it, but in general when we think about what are our jobs, like we're in in a working economy at the moment where, you know, if you look back 100 years, the philosophers said that we would all be free, everything would be automated, and we'd be talking about philosophy drinking wine. When we look at the employee experience, when we look at sort of systems as a whole, we need to look after the people who serve those systems as well. One of the things I think of, if I think about what a job is in 2020, a job is basically maintaining a set of standard operating procedures. Like if you're doing a job, your job is actually maintaining a set of subsystems or a set of sub-processes that allow a system to thrive. And if you aren't aware of that, then it's often because the job is not explicit enough, or it's not been defined in the right way. And even the way that we look at the actors that perform in the system, we don't think about it in terms of these operating principles and this maintenance of processes.
Okay, thank you very much. As we've all been really excited speaking and adding on to each other's senses, maybe we should open up some questions for the audience. Now, Ryan, straight in there. Right, so obviously you lot are the professionals. So if there's any questions in particular you'd like to answer, then please just feel free to go ahead and do that. But Ryan has asked quite a lengthy question, actually. I will let you all have a read over that, and if anyone would like to jump on and read it and answer it, sorry.
Just before answering the question, I just want to give some, insight. Finance is actually one of the leading area for, adapting this new kind of thinking, new kind of approaches. I think one of the reasons for that, because they heavily work with such a large systems, all connected. It's so important how they connected. It's so important how data flow. Even like a millisecond delay might result so many consequences. At the time, years ago, I also designed a trading platform, redesign of the trading platform for JP Morgan. And that was a very, very system design project. Just wanted to hint just before moving into the answering the question.
I can take this question,
but just,
if you guys allow me. Yeah,
perfect, Abhijit. If I could just read out a bit of the question to give the audience a bit of background into what it is. Ryan is asking basically, how do you build systems that don't suffer from being too big or too entrenched to change because you don't know what is coming in the next 20 years?
Sure. So, I mean, this particular question is very relevant to the work I was doing in Barclays Investment Bank. I was the head of data modeling in that bank for a few years. And one of the main aspect of my job was to separate out the data from the products. So in the past, the data part of the services that the bank provides were quite integrated together. And because of which, every time a new service or product was developed in the bank, there were like silos. What I did was I quickly realized that it need not be integrated so tightly. So if we could lose the coupling, so loosely coupled products, so the data remains at the systems level. Now, if I use the paradigm of the iceberg, which Noor was mentioning, every product that we give out or create is a smart product, but it is in a big framework of smart systems. And if we do that, and if we separate out the data part, then every time there's a change in the market, or there's a change in user behavior, or if there's a competition from a newcomer, we just need to use the data that we have gathered and then create a new product. The time to market will reduce drastically, while we'll be using the data from all over the organization, not just trying to do a patchwork on the existing system. It sounds very easy, but it is very, very difficult to do, because it involves cultural change in an organization which might be from 1,000 people strong to 200,000 people strong. So the culture of continuously thinking of data being separate of product development, a separate part in a bigger product development exercise, is key to key to solving that problem that Ryan has asked.
I just want to add something to Abhijit. Here is so important for system designers. So normally in design practice, you engage with your clients, your businesses, and you go to workshop, etc. But in a typical system design project, subject matter expert is full-time. So, you know, none of us can become the finance expert in 2 months or 6 months, or even healthcare expert in. So it's so critical for system design projects to have this sort of expert from the business, from the domain, to be part of that work and continue working. And therefore, there was actually quite a lot of reaction when I said, system designers don't make decisions. We facilitate to derive to decision, and decisions are design-led. So that's so important for us to understand, like the way of working it slightly changes when you adapt system thinking and design thinking. And on the last point in the question, we don't design for the next 20 years. We design for what can work, foresee the next 5 years often, because technology is massively growing. But at the same time, system design have a lot of kind of very practical answer, but system design have a lot of kind of research that competitor analysis, trends analysis, future forecast, viability studies from commercials, from technology side, but all these studies coming from the right experts. So not necessarily, I'm not the person who can answer, for example, how data and AI is going to evolve in the next 10 years, but the skills, you know, the expert in that area brings these insights so that you make more strategic decision. What is your kind of minimum pilotable, we mostly call it, what is your minimum pilotable product, so you can actually get that product live so it can start learning on the job. If that makes sense.
I think that's quite right. I want to kind of offer what the blue sky scenario is if we do systems design correctly. Ryan's question is really valid here. I think, you know, the banking infrastructure, the rails as they call it, you know, the decentralized finance people call them the rails. The reason that they're sort of becoming stagnant and recalcitrant is usually because, you know, it wasn't thought of as a system. It was one thing after another, like a little plaster here, plaster there. Oh, we need to handle credit cards now. Let's build this thing. Oh, this thing has come out of nowhere. We have to deal with e-commerce. So let's introduce secure code. Let's ruin every designer's user experience in order to introduce this new feature. The blue sky version of systems thinking is that we create systems that are adaptable. I completely agree that we need to, it's the experts that have to make the decisions, but fundamentally, we shouldn't be building something so explicit that it becomes fragile. The reason the banking system has become so problematic is because the banking system initially was not built for all of the changes that came. We have to build something modular. We have to build something that can grow and breathe as time moves on and effectively become anti-fragile.
Okay, thank you very much. If anyone doesn't have anything to add onto that, I have a new question in here, which is, empathy is a huge aspect in design thinking. What are your thoughts around this? Would anyone like to answer that first?
I'll have a very short answer, then other people can go on. I want to refer back to something I said earlier, which is, you know, in design thinking, or even in UX design, service design, it's the sovereignty of the end user that we look at first. You know, it's that person that we empathize with. In a system, it's not enough to just think about one user or one set of users. We have to expand that further.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to add anything onto that?
Yeah, I can see the follow-up question about how should smart systems be able to learn empathy? As we mentioned earlier, of course, they emulate empathy, and depends on how well we design the algorithm, how well they manage to emulate it. They learn about behaviors, responses. With the homeschooling project, for example, I'm working with our partner company, which is part of Entity Data, where they developed an ability to detect emotions. through facial recognition, through voice, through intonations, through the way the sentences are structured. And they also developed algorithms to adapt teaching strategy depending on the input. So that's one example how it could be done. I guess there are many others, but I think that illustrates it well.
Okay, thank you very much. If anyone doesn't have anything to add on to this, we have a question in from Liam Barnett saying that you may have already touched on this. However, if you wanted your organization to really adopt a system design way of thinking, what would you suggest? I think we should open this up to Antonio first, because I've not heard him answer many questions so far. So let's give him a chance.
Yeah. I'm trying to understand whether it's good to answer in a conventional way or in more provocative way. Okay, let's go for the provocative one. Okay. Let's say from an anthropological standpoint, at this moment, we are experiencing a very, very tough moment. Before, there was someone that was asking for the big challenges that we will face in 20 years. 20 years is too much. Perhaps we don't know what would be the environment of banking on other business in 6 months, not 20 years. So what is happening now is that the status quo is broken. The status quo, which is an equilibrium among 3 different aspects: social aspects, spiritual aspect, and emotional aspects, is broken. So we were living in a very safe and a kind of a stable situation, which is completely broken. And at this moment, I think that having a systemic view is not a choice. It's just the only thing that you can do to survive as company, because nobody has the solution of what would be the solution to survive this crisis. There are no numbers that might suggest you the good strategy, because all the mathematical models are broken so far, because nobody can predict exactly what will happen in 6 months from several perspectives. So the only things that you can do as companies to looking for an adapted status quo. So having the possibility to change quickly. So start doing something, experiment, iterate quickly. And in this way, from an anthropological standpoint, the more you are capable to adapt, the more you have possibility to survive. And this is one of the best things that you can suggest to your client. I mean, if you would like to survive to this crisis, I think that you have to learn, switch your mind, and you learn how to adapt. And the capability to adapt quickly is a huge opportunity also to intercept emerging ecosystem, and then having the possibility to merge different systems, having a systemic view, and perhaps finding new business. For instance, for banking, we can find some overlap with transportation or healthcare, for instance, and perhaps start new business models.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. No, did you want to add something on? You're on mute.
Can you hear me now? I'm not on mute.
Yep, loud and clear.
I think it could be my headphones. I just want to add a couple of notes to Antonio's points. And I really like the question, like, what would you suggest to your clients and businesses? So it's hard to shift, but the shift is request, it's a big demand from all angles, right? Shift is ethics is asked by consumers, by society, and by the governments as well, right? There's all this zero carbon neutral target for most EU countries, and it's 2030 by by 2030 is Finland's target to become like literally like neutral, like zero. And if we think about like maybe, you know, when service design is picking up, we said digital transformation is a matter of survival at the time, and that's how we were educating our clients to, you know, you got to do like, you got to look at it holistically and etc. So, you know, try to convene them to digital transformation. And I think here it's more critical, because for companies to adapt to this demand and shift along the way, it's costly, because they already operate in 50 plus years of infrastructures, the way they supply things, for example. They don't have zero visibility, you know, other than the first layer of who they are businessing with. They don't know what's happening at the background, because these infrastructures is not, you know, it's not modernized, it's not new. You know, they're not as good looking as consumer facing products. So I think there is a big selling point, not just for the sake of selling, but actually trying to educate and help our clients in order to, you know, why they need to adapt system design. And that's number one. And number two, it's a bit similar to like service design. It's I guess it's going to take a while for companies to build this. Maybe strategy and kind of systems thinking can come into play from consulting side. But I think in general, it's you know, it's a new emerging area that's so hard to build, I think, as of now. But I think as designers, we have lots of starting point already. You know, we have lots of opportunity to actually move into this area and start educating our clients.
Thank you very much.
Add?
Go on, Abhijit.
Just two things. I mean, this question is very close to my heart. How can organization really adopt to a system design way? My advice would be two things. One is look at the organization as an entity. So if I'm an entity, then different parts of my body together work to make my entity success. So that's the first thing. If we think of organization as an entity, our way of looking at how we should do things will change suddenly, and it will be a system design way. And second is scoping, constant scoping of what that entity looks like. So the zoom in, zoom out paradigm. So if you have a telescope and when you zoom in, you see a different scope to when you zoom out. And we have to do that experiment to understand at what point we should stop and consider that as an entity, that as an organization. And when we do that, I think system design will automatically start coming into, you know, its place in the organization.
Thank you very much for that, Vijay. It's an amazing answer. Would anybody else like to add on? Anyone have anything to say?
Yes, I can add another aspect of it.
Please do.
I think another way of kind of presenting the opportunity of system design is finding the new, understanding the kind of the unmet needs of the whole organization, and finding new business models, new partnerships, or looking at existing partnerships and improving them significantly through systems design. And I'll give you an example from another recent project. Hospitals need to provide the highest quality of care without increasing the costs. Yeah. They need to continuously improve the quality of care without increasing the costs or reducing the costs. And how do they do that? Well, the latest research helps that. And many hospitals have existing relationships with some research organizations which work on ad hoc basis. But what if we introduce the data flow into it? And what if we created a partnership where that relationships is much closer integrated, and it's much easier for the doctors to receive the latest research as and when they need it, like literally at minutes notice? What if the researchers could get access to the information about rare diseases as and when they are treated in the hospital? So it's an opportunity to accelerate the processes in several organizations and help them to meet their individual needs.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer. Just to let the audience know, we are just on time now to go into the networking. If you can follow the links in the chat below, then you can find your way over to the networking where we can all get together and people can introduce themselves and you can maybe ask some further questions to the panel. So I will see you over there.